Hey, it's Joe Pardo, and you're listening to the 360 Entrepreneur with Jan Ilunga.
This is episode 160, and in this one we talk about dreams and entrepreneurship. Here we go.
Welcome to the 360 Entrepreneur Podcast, the show for entrepreneurs and small business owners who dream big and want to do bigger. Join some of the world's top entrepreneurs, internet marketers, and best-selling authors as they share their inspiring stories, their struggles, and give actionable tips that will help you build, grow, and promote your online business. Here's your host, Yanni Lunga.
Hello and welcome to this new episode of the 360 Entrepreneur Podcast. Like always, I'm your host, pal, friend, teacher, interviewer, Yanni Lunga. And in this one, we focus on dreams and entrepreneurship. I mean, it's important to have dreams, to have aspirations, but dreaming isn't enough. We have to lay out a plan that is going to help us to take the necessary action to turn those dreams into reality. And when it comes to dreaming and turning dreams into memories, today's guest expert, Joe Pardo, is the go-to guy. He's an entrepreneur, a dreamer, a speaker, and the founder of a conference called MidAtlantic Podcast Conference that is going to be back this autumn in September in the greater Philadelphia area. And during the interview, we're going to hear more about the conference as well as Joe's stories, how he ended up where he is today, and he has some advice that I'm sure is going to help you big time. The show notes for today are at yannilunga.com/episode 160. All right, here is the interview with Joe Pardo from superjoepardo.com. Hey everybody, welcome to this new episode, and I'm so thrilled about who is joining us. We have been having a fantastic pre-interview and chat, and I'm so happy that I get to hit record and you hear from our guest. He's a New Jersey-based dreamer who has always believed that society starts with you, and that to change society, you must first change how you think. But he isn't just a dreamer, he's a doer. He has founded the Motivation Dreamers podcast to build this platform and help others pursue their dreams. He's the author of 2 books and is also the founder of the event called MidAtlantic Podcast Conference. And here's here with us. I'm so thrilled to welcome on the show, Joe Pardo. Hey, Joe, how's it going?
Yo, Jan, it's going amazing. How about yourself?
I'm doing great, and I have a quick story to share with you about your last name, Joe. I was telling you earlier that I'm from the Italian-speaking part of Switzerland, from a city called Locarno. And every August, Locarno has an international film festival, and there's been all types of guests from all over the world. And the theme of the festival is always the leopard. So you may see billboard around the city. You see traces of the leopard, layers. And in Italian, leopard is leopardo. But when there's the festival, they always say pardo. So there may be the Pardo workshop, the Pardo special event. So as soon as I got to know you, I heard your last name, somehow reminded me of my hometown.
Oh, wow.
So, man, if one day you ever happen to end up in Locarno in August during the International Film Festival, make sure to say to people, hey, I'm Mr. Pardo. Everybody's going to be like, oh, wait, do you have something to do with the festival, or what do you mean? No, well, jokes aside, thank you so much for being here with us. And I was telling, you're a dreamer, you're a doer, you're an author, you're a podcaster. So, Joe, I think the best question to kick off this conversation is, can you tell us more about your story and kind of how you ended up where you are today?
Oh, man. Well, first of all, thank you for having me on. I really appreciate you taking the time to hear me out, and your listeners for taking the time to listen. My story starts with a small business that my family started back in 81. Mm-hmm. And when I wasn't born until 86, so it's like 5 years earlier. and I grew up in the business, but I always kind of didn't want to necessarily be in the business. Like when I was growing up, 6, 7 years old, I really wanted to be a child psychologist, and I loved helping people, and it was just like my thing that I really had inside of me. Well, over the course, I became a DJ. And that was a great time in my life. It taught me a lot of things about how to work a crowd and how to really do a lot of things that a shy boy who loves to play video games normally wouldn't be doing.
Right.
So it really helped me through. I guess my only regret there is that I didn't start DJing until like the end of my high school, which is like year 12 of school.
Right.
I don't know how it runs over in Europe, but so the way that Dreamers podcast came about was I had enough of working with my family's business. It's very lucrative, and it was quite big, especially for the size of the workforce that we had, like on a staffing side of things. So I finally worked up the courage to say, okay, I'm done. I'm gonna go back to school, maybe get a degree or something like that. I wound up doing that for about almost 2 years before I was like, I need to just stop hedging my bets on that side of things and just go full force. It wasn't until about 9 months after I decided, like, I had sat down and had the very difficult conversation with my dad about how, I want to move on. I want to do something else. I don't know what it is yet. I'm going to try a bunch of different things. I put myself out there in a few different ways. And 9 months later, everything came to a head, and it was like, okay, it's time for me, Joe, to go. Sometimes you got to know when it's time to go. And so I did. I left, and it was about a month later, I was with a friend. We were flying actually to Disney World to go run a 5K race. I do a lot of different, well, mostly just Disney races, but he told me about Entrepreneur on Fire and how much money he's making. I'm like, well, I didn't think anyone was making any money from podcasting, because the only podcast I listened to was a Disney one, and they had sponsors, but I didn't. Even if they were making money, there's 4 people as part of that podcast, so you split it 4 ways. It's like there can't be anything there. Well, we got to talking, and I was like, I never even thought about the idea of using podcasting in an interview style.
Right.
So I was like, all right, well, I know a lot of entrepreneurs, business people from, working in my family's business. Let me, but maybe I should interview people who live their dreams, because I know a lot more people that are doing that. And that's more interesting to me, because I won't get bored with it. And on that plane, it was created, man. That plane. By the time we landed and got to the rental car, I had already registered the domain name, had like 50 to 100 names written down, registered the Twitter handle and the Facebook page, all from my phone.
Man, I think that's the perfect example of what an action taker is. I mean, you got the idea, you started to get your hands dirty immediately. I like that. And what I really like is that your podcast, Dreamers Podcast, you talk with people who live their dreams. You talk about dream, but at the same time, you also about the importance of taking risks and taking actions. I mean, you just told us how you yourself decided that, okay, I'm not sure what I want to do, but I know I want to put myself out there. So really step outside your comfort zone, try different things. And then now with the last thing you mentioned of your podcast, how you really started and take action. And I'm curious, I mean, you have done quite many interviews with your podcast, and you have had quite many amazing guests. In terms of let's call them common denominators or features or even trends, what do you think some of these incredible people you have interviewed have in common? So the people who live their dream or the dream life, what do they have in common? What comes up at the top of your head?
A lot of them really had support, and like me with going back to DJing, that was supported by my grandparents. They were they were very supportive of anything I wanted to do, regardless of if it meant I was going to be working in the family business or not, that my grandfather actually started. So it's like, that's really a common thread amongst most of them, is like, even the ones that have like parents, because that's one of the questions I asked, like, how'd your family take it when you were like, okay, I'm going to do this thing now? Usually all of them pretty much had support. The parents might not have understood it. The spouse or the girlfriend or significant other might not have understood it, but they supported them, and actually supported them, right? So it's not just saying that you're going to support them, but like actually going out of your way to make it a point to support what this person that's supposed to be important to you does, and I think that's really, it's really, really important to believe in yourself and believe in what you are capable of doing, and then having the support to make it feel validated.
I love it, and I also think that today with technology, that's even easier, because you can get to know through a Skype call, for example. You may get to know an incredible person or group of people that are really going to be out there to help you, to support you. So it can be in a more, let's say, formal way as a mastermind group, for example, or it can even just be a friend who you kind of hit it off with, and then he or she is there for you day in, day out, and really help you lay out the idea of your business, start your business, grow it, and so forth. And in terms of the listeners who are here with you and I, Joe, there may be people who are thinking about really, they want to live their dream life. They want to achieve their dreams. They want to get things done. They want to be happy. What advice do you have for them? Any words of encouragement for them?
Well, spend a lot of time thinking not just about the life that you think you want to live, but really how do you want to go about living it? I think that a lot of times when we meet these rah people that are like, oh, go live your dreams, it'll be great, it'll be wonderful. They don't necessarily give you the map to get to the path, right? The path that they're giving you is like, go get it. It's going to be awesome. Just go after it. But a lot of times we need to like really sit down and like think, okay, well, what not just what do we want to do, but is what we want to do, what we're passionate about, going to give us the life that we want, right? Because if you want to live in a city, well, it's expensive, right? So you can do that, but you're going to need some kind of income to support that. And what your dream is about, does that necessarily equate to being successful in a city? I guess it's kind of hard to get without giving an example, but if all right, so if you wanted to be, in my case, it was be a DJ, but I also wanted to live on a farm out in the middle of like South Dakota or North Dakota or something like that, right? It's not a great mesh,
right?
It could be, because there might be like one nightclub in a 150-mile radius, but the thing is that's probably only one or two jobs that are available to DJs in that area,
right?
So you could go there and maybe you get lucky, but it's tough, right? So you need to be able to figure out like, okay, well, could I live in the suburbs? If I live in the suburbs, how much does it cost? How much will DJing be able to pay me if I work really hard at it? So there's a lot more to it than just like, okay, because not everybody, this is something that I was thinking about the other day when I was out breaking cardboard out in my garage. Because we're having our first baby and we have all these big cardboard boxes from furniture and stuff. Right. So I'm breaking it down and I'm looking around my neighborhood and I'm like, when I look at online and I see all these people and they're like, oh, we're going to get the laptop lifestyle and we're going to, make all this money while we just sit on the beach and all that. It's like, but I don't really like beaches, and right. I kind of just like my little suburbia town. And I like traveling and I love having friends internationally and people coming to visit and stuff, especially since we live right outside of New York, Philadelphia, Atlantic City, DC, and Baltimore. It's wonderful to live where I live, but I'm like, I don't feel the need to like go and live that laptop lifestyle all over the world.
Right.
Like, I just want to live here. Like, actually, I live in the house I grew up in. I bought it from my dad about 6 years ago. So
nice.
I'm more than content with just staying here. Like, I don't care if I have millions of dollars. It doesn't mean anything to me. Like, this is what I want. This is where I live, and plan on living for a long time.
Joe, I so agree with you about the example of the laptop lifestyle you made. I think it's a perfect example because I'm also a huge traveling fan. I love to travel, but then I also sometimes think, okay, could I live the life on the road all the time? I have some friends, people I connected with who are like digital nomads. They travel all the time and they are in all these great places, and that's nice. But then I also sometimes think that, okay, would I be able to do that? Yes, no, that's tricky. But I like that you talked about the importance of really thinking about your dreams and your dream life in more practical terms, if that makes sense. So you said about, for example, thinking about things in more practical sense. Like if you want to get to from point A to point B, what does that mean and how to get there? So you said, yeah, if you want to, like everybody or some people talk about, living the laptop lifestyle, and it's great, but is that what you want? And if you think that's what you want, you should really sit down and think, okay, do you enjoy traveling? Sure. Do you think you could be on the road all the time, 265 days a year kind of thing? If that's not you, maybe that's not the road for you. And to help people with with thinking big, with doing big, with dreaming and taking action, you've also written 2 books, and one of them is called 31 Life-Changing Concepts. And that's really, I think it's really deep and sounds like a very powerful book. And I want to ask you, Joe, to tell the listeners a little bit more about the book and what they can expect from the book, number 1, and number 2, if maybe you could share a couple of these life-changing concepts with us.
Yeah, so 31 Life-Changing Concepts came at the end of me saying, okay, I'm doing my show, Dreamers Podcast, doing one show 5 days a week. If I want to be able to write this book, I need to get it down to like 3 days a week. And ultimately I right now I do it at 1 day a week because I do 6 other shows.
Right.
So I can't, or 5 other shows, sorry. But so it came at this idea of like, okay, I'm not a reader. I don't read a lot of books. In fact, I have a book sitting on my desk that I know I need to read, and I've been fighting it because I'm such a slow reader. And it was a book that I actually read, and I was on a plane from LA to Philadelphia, and I was like, I don't want to write a book just for the sake of writing a book. And I don't want to write a book that I wouldn't want to read, right? Because the thing I hate about reading, more so than me being a slow reader, is a lot of times they just keep saying the same thing over and over and over again in the book, like an informational book, right? Not necessarily like a storytelling book.
Yeah.
And it's like almost like they're trying to sell you the book. It's like, I already bought the book. I'm holding the book. You don't have to keep selling me the book. You did that already. Let's just get to the meat of it. So I was like, all right, well, I've been kicking around this idea, and I actually wrote most of the 31. Actually, there was a couple more in there, but I trimmed it out. Most of the concepts in one sitting. And I even wrote like a whole outline. And that's, for someone that's looking to write a book, that's what you outline and formatting. What format is your book going to be in? Is it 6x9? Is it, well, I don't know any other formats because I don't know, but my books are 6x9. So, it's important to do that because otherwise you're going to go through the painstaking process of reformatting your book after the fact. Because I wrote it in 8.5 by 11, and you don't print books in 8.5 by 11. So I wanted to write this book with all these concepts that I have used over the years, that I've learned over the years, that I've taught to my friends over the years. And it's actually kind of amazing, even now, like almost a year after the book has come out, that I look at it and I'm like, man, I can't believe I pulled all these different concepts out of myself and almost all of them in one sitting. So I was like, because I don't like reading books, I want to write a book for people who don't like reading books. So I'm going to include pictures.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not an artist. I don't claim to be for the most part. I think I'm an artist in some ways. I'm not a drawing artist. But I wanted to show the power of what someone who quote unquote is not something can accomplish.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided to do all of my pictures in Sharpie artwork like my Dreamers podcast logos.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I'm not like some kind of drawing wizard or anything like that because I'm really not. But what I am is determined, and I also like to show people, again, the power of what you can do and what you can be even when people don't classify you as something.
Mm-hmm.
So I made the book. It came out. It was number one on Amazon for personal transformation for a little while. So I guess it's quote unquote a bestseller or whatever, but everybody seems to throw that around. And one of the important things, or I guess, well, some of the concepts that I guess I could pull from this would be one of my favorites is everything pays rent. And it's the idea that when you pay for a living space, you're paying for, dollars for, or I don't know what it is in Finland. What
Euro.
do you guys,
Euro.
Euro. It is Euro.
Yeah.
I should know that. Sorry. I'm thinking it's like 20 years ago before the Euro existed or something. Okay. So the idea is that when you pay your dollars or euros for your living space, you're paying per square foot, though I guess you don't use feet in Europe. So I guess you square meter?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, square meter. So the idea is that the bigger the item is, the more space it takes up. It needs to be able to pay its own rent.
Mm-hmm.
Does it pay you in necessity or in entertainment? So if it's not paying you in one of those two, then you probably should look at getting rid of it, either selling it or throwing it out or whatever it is that you can do to get rid of it. Because it's taking up space, right? It takes up space in this space that you are paying rent. Now you can apply that to a desk space, right?
Mm-hmm.
What stuff's on your desk? And one of the ways that I talk about is you could take everything on your desk, put it in a box, and then as you need things, you pull things out of the box. Then you'll realize at the end of a week, like, hey, I had a bunch of stuff in here that didn't need to be on my desk. I could put it somewhere else, or I could get rid of it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the idea, is everything pays rent, and you can always buy something again, right? Like you can get rid of it today and tomorrow. Now, obviously, I don't want you to throw out or sell off your priceless first editions of Harry Potter or whatever, people are reading these days. But the idea is that if it's not something that has like inherent value, like beyond where I could just buy it again, maybe you should, because it's just like a storage unit, right? You're paying to store stuff, but at a certain point, everything that's in your storage unit could be lapsed by how much you paid in just to have that storage unit.
Mm-hmm.
If you're storing $1,000 worth of stuff and you keep it there at $100 or €100 per month, in 10 months, you could have gotten rid of everything, unless there's a very specific plan for it. You could have just got rid of everything and then rebought it.
Right. Yeah.
When and if you needed it, just like the box example for your desk.
Yeah. No, that's true. But anyways, Joe, you said it. I mean, your book, 31 Life-Changing Concepts, has been a bestseller, has been ranked high on the Huffington Post. So I think it's right to give credit where credit is due. And do you have maybe another one or two life-changing concepts that you would like to share here with all of us?
Yeah, I'd like to say that you what was it? I forget which number it is, but there's always a way, right?
Mm-hmm.
You just have to be willing to look deep enough. And what's funny is that chapter actually backs right up to the view from every perspective. So those kind of go together in the sense that if you view things from a different perspective, if you can talk to people, and that's one of the things I love is talking to people from all around the world, not just in the show, but in general, because to me, that's the real travel bug, right? I don't care about seeing like oh, it's a nice mountain view or something. Like that's cool, right? Like I get that, and I can appreciate it for what it is, but it's not even on the same block as the building of I like to talk to people and get to know people and see things from different perspectives from people all around the world. Like to me, that is just on a whole. It's almost in a different city,
right?
For me, because it's just awesome. So just remember, there's always a way. You might not like doing what you have to do, but there's definitely a way to accomplish what you're looking for. And sometimes you have to make compromises for it, right? It can't always just be like the perfect thing. But here's the thing. Those compromises can lead to a better way that you didn't even see coming.
I love it. That's so inspiring, Joe. And so we have talked actually about quite many things. We've talked about your story. You told us more about Dreamers podcasts. We've talked about your book. And I know that your online hub, your site is superjoepardo.com, and you're on Twitter at superjoepardo. So I believe those are the two places where people can learn more about you and connect with you.
Definitely. Yeah. superjoepardo.com is where you want to go. And I did not, for anybody curious, I did not give myself that name. It was a friend of mine, a very good friend of mine, someone I consider a brother, actually left that, like he drew like a little picture, like a stick figure, and left it on my desk. I don't know. I guess I was feeling down or something like that. And he left it on my desk at work because we were working together at the time. And, so, and that was like 2006.
Right.
So it wasn't until, just a little while ago that was like, I've done all this stuff. I'm not trying to be cocky, but like I put stuff out, right? Like, it's not like I talk a big game and don't produce. I'm going to take it over. And superjoepardo.com was available. So I was like, screw it. I'll just change everything over to Super Joe Pardo. And that's what we're rolling with.
Oh, I love it. I think it's a great trademark, I dare to say. And like in every episode, guys, you're going to find the links to everything Joe and I have talked about in the show notes. And in this final part of the podcast, Joe, I'd like to tap into the podcasters part of your brain and talk about actually your conference. So I mentioned it early on in the introduction. So in September 9th, and 10th, you're going to have the MidAtlantic Podcast Conference 2016 in the greater Philadelphia area. So I know that there are months between the conference and this conversation, but still, can you tell the listeners a little bit more about MidAtlantic Podcast, kind of how you came up with the idea and what they can expect from the conference, also based on the previous edition?
Well, I mean, a lot of it goes back to the DJing part of me, and throwing events and having a rich history with my grandfather. He actually every year would put on a vendor display for anywhere between 800 and 1,000 people in February for his company. So it was, so I grew up in that and just throwing events and having a good time with it. And it's honestly, it's like one of my favorite things to do is put on parties and events and come up with different things. And fortunately, my wife is actually pretty big into that as well. So it works out really well. And I was like, I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, I wonder if there's like one group, like a Facebook group. It started out as a Facebook group of like, hey, is there anybody bringing all these people in the North, not the Northeast, but like the Mid-Atlantic states,
right,
together? And there wasn't. So I was like, oh, I need to jump on this. So I invited all the people that I already knew. And then we went from, 20 people, 30 people, 40 people. Now we're at 100 people. And I was like, all right, well, we're going to do these meetups. We're going to do, I'm going to host the conference in September. And I'm just throwing all this stuff out there and people seem to, get excited about it. So I was like, all right, well, let's do these meetups. We did a meetup in New York. I think it was like May of last year. I don't know. It was still kind of chilly out. So maybe it was before May, like maybe it was April. And we had like 15 people show up and we went to, it was at a park just off of Times Square. And then we went out to dinner right after, and I think like 8 to 10 people still, went from the park to dinner with us. So I was like, all right, awesome. Let's make this happen. We had almost 50 people show up and at the conference, and it was a great time. If you want to check it out, it's podcastmidatlantic.com /wrap up 15. And you can actually watch the whole conference from soup to nuts. It's like it's like 6 hours, and I think it's almost 7 hours worth of video, like 6 hours and 45 minutes of video. And from that, we also did, I wanted to do things differently. So we did like the creative podcast competition where podcasters got together in groups of 4, and they had like items in a bag, and they had to make a 5-minute podcast that they had to produce up on stage in front of everybody, and then they were voted on, and the winners got Audio Technica ATR 2100 microphones.
Nice.
From our friends at Audio Technica. So absolutely wonderful. There was way more support for it than I could have. I don't know if could have imagined, but it was a very successful event. I mean, we even had a piñata there because it was 3 people's birthdays. So, and actually this year I'll have to do something to, upstage the piñata from last year.
Course.
It'll be like 3 people's birthdays again. So, so it was a great time. And this year we're looking to go from, about the 50 people up to 300 people.
Nice.
So 6 times the amount of people. We moved out of a school gymnasium, which we were using for the first one. We're in a hotel now, and it's gonna be awesome. I can't wait to get everything. I have a couple tricks up my sleeve to make it even more fun and more engaging. And we're gonna probably have quite a few more speakers than we did last year. So it's gonna be a great time. And Jan, if I may, I want to say that for me, it's important that that it's not about monetization. I mean, we're probably gonna have at least one talk on monetization,
right?
But our focus at this conference is community building and creativity, and that's where the competition comes in, and that's having people come in, and it's like, because everybody wants to build listeners, right? They want to build audience, and I think it seems to be, and from what I've seen in my surveys, that seems to be what people are most interested in. It's like, how do I build an audience? How do I build that community? And what's worked for the people that it's worked for? So I'm really looking forward to giving that talk to some of my speakers and really exploring that a lot more. But yeah, so if you're in the Philadelphia area, and let me also say, we are called the MidAtlantic Podcast Conference, but we had people fly from Orlando, Florida, which is like 1,000 miles away. We have 2 people come from Atlanta. One flew, which Atlanta is like 700 miles away.
Right.
One drove from Atlanta. 2 people came from Cleveland, Ohio, which is over 6-7 hours away from us. Both of them drove. Connecticut, which is like 3 hours away from us. New York City, Virginia, all these places. So it wasn't just people in the Philadelphia area or just in those states. It's actually quite a bit bigger than that.
No, it sounds, Joe, I have to say, it sounds like a lot of fun. And you said it. It's about podcasting, it's about creativity, it's about community, and it's about having fun. So whether you live in the greater Philadelphia area, or maybe you're listening to Joe and I from the other side of the world, and you're planning to visit the States around the time of the year, make sure to mark your calendar, September 9th and 10th. And you can find more information, as Joe said, on the website, podcastmidatlantic.com. And once again, you will find the link to the conference and everything else Joe and I have talked about in the show notes. Joe, I really want to thank you so much for really rocking this conversation, bringing your superpowers. And you told us that you're about to become a father. So I want to wish you and your wife all the best. And I really hope to talk to you soon.
Oh, thank you, Jan. I appreciate you having me on the show. And we're looking forward to having our first baby girl. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Things are going to change around here.
All right, we are back, Joe. Thank you so much, really. You're such a powerhouse of inspiration and value. I really, really appreciate you taking the time for being here with us. And you heard it. So this September, MidAtlantic Podcast Conference is going to be back in the greater Philadelphia area. If you want to learn more about that, Joe also mentioned the video recap of last year's MidAtlantic Conference. You can find everything in the show notes at janilunga.com/episode 160. And speaking of conferences, I have two things I want to share. First of all, I want to remind you, if you haven't yet, to make sure to sign up for the Podcast Success Summit. Wondering what that is? Well, that's the biggest digital conference about podcasting in the world. I've been working very, very hard to bring you a fantastic event, digital event, that features 80 of the world's best podcasters, entrepreneurs, and digital marketers. So if you haven't yet, make sure to check out the show notes. Make sure to check out the link to the Podcast Success Summit and grab your free ticket, because the event is about to get started. That's number one. And number two, to wrap up this episode, I want to let you know about an opportunity to meet in person. Very, very exciting. In July, there's going to be Podcast Movement 2016. This year is going to be in Chicago. And guess what? Your friend Jan is going to be there. So if you happen to attend Podcast Movement, please let me know. I'll make sure also to email the newsletter. I'll make sure to share more details in the Facebook group, but make sure to let me know. I would love nothing more than meet you in person. All right? Okay. So a lot of things to check out. Again, show notes at janilunga.com/episode 160. This is it for this week. I have to go and work on the Podcast Success Summit. Have a great day.
Thank you for listening to the 360 Entrepreneur Podcast. For more tips and tools, head over to www.janilunga.com.